Greetings everyone. Well, it's Blu-ray update time again on the Multimedia Chronicles. Got one that's a little different for you this time. It's not my usual fare. As you guys know, I'm a big genre guy. I love horror movies and sci-fi and anime and 80s cartoons and all that fun stuff. This time around, however, I got some proper films that, for lack of a better term, got some drama, some classics, some thrillers, and just a whole grab bag of stuff. Indicator Films, a boutique label that I've become a huge fan of, had a recent sale, and I mainly went there to fill in gaps in various collections, getting a bunch of their Hammer stuff and some of their Marlon titles, and we'll talk about all of those when it gets a little closer to Halloween time. But in addition to that, I thought, well, they've got this sale on, why don't I just kind of browse around and see what else they've got that looks interesting, especially because a lot of their standard release titles, not their limited editions, but their standard release titles, they had on for like 3 for 20, was it $20 or 20 pounds? Well, 3 for 20 something, which was a really good deal. It was basically about, half price? No, it was like less than half price, about a third of the price of what they would normally go for. So, well, so I thought, well, I mean, if I'm going to broaden my horizons and buy a few new things sight unseen to check out, now's the time to do it, because that's a heck of a good deal. And I had a little extra money anyway, so I thought, why not? So, 3 for 20 something. I got 9. I got 9 titles, so 3 of the 3 for 20 deals. And yeah, as I said, not my usual fare, so this should be an interesting one. So I guess in a way this is Blu-ray collection updates against type? Sure, we'll go with that. Today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. So there was a few kind of things I was looking for. First off was classics that were notable films featuring big name actors kind of early in their careers. I thought would be interesting to check out. And also a few things that I remembered seeing with my parents when I was younger and too young to appreciate them. Others were like thrillers and stuff that I remember seeing ads for, again, when I was too young to appreciate them, but was always kind of curious about. And now that I'm older, I thought, well, why don't I check them out now? So to start off with, have a pretty big one to start off with, actually. We have Marlon Brando in The Wild One from 1953. Yeah, so this was his big breakout movie. He'd done a few movies beforehand. I think this is his 5th movie, if I remember correctly. And, the first 4 didn't really make much of an impact. But then he did The Wild One in 1953 and just kind of exploded. And his star was rapidly on the rise from there. Now, I gotta say, one thing I don't like about Indicator, the one thing is, unlike other boutique labels, they don't put any kind of description of the movie on the back. But they just list their extras and usually have like a tagline or famous quote or something. So they do describe the movies quite eloquently on their website. So why don't I just read the copy off the website and give you a little blurb about the movie.
Marlon Brando in his breakthrough and most iconic role as Johnny Strabler, ruthless leader of the Black Rebels motorcycle gang who terrorize a small town. Based on real-life events, the film was considered so shocking and insightful of delinquent behavior at the time, it was banned in the UK until 1967.
And there you go. I think this is one of his most quoted movies as well. So, never seen it. Looking forward to checking it out. The Wild One. Next up, we have one from fairly early on in Jeff Bridges' career, from 1985, 3 years after Tron, and I guess he was wanting to get into some more serious roles, so he wouldn't be seen as that goofy guy from Twan. Anyway, we have Jeff Bridges and Glenn Close in Jagged Edge. This one I'm pretty sure I did see when I was, when did I say it came out? 1985? Yeah, I would have been like 13 when this came out. And I know my parents really like Jeff Bridges and those types of thrillers, so they would always rent them or sometimes get them for their collections. And so I'm sure that I've seen this, but I mean, so long ago, I don't remember anything about it. And of course, when I was 13, I was mainly all about, giant robots, Star Wars, Transformers, and, cartoons and sci-fi stuff. Really big into sci-fi stuff, and horror, of course. So let's check out the blurb for Jagged Edge.
A classic neo-noir and a definitive 1980s erotic thriller, Jagged Edge stars Jeff Bridges as a dashing newspaper publisher accused of brutally slaying his rich socialite wife in order to inherit her fortune. Glenn Close, Fatal Attraction, plays the high-achieving female attorney who is compromised when she enters into a torrid and steamy love affair with the accused. Sleek, stylish, and suspenseful, Jagged Edge benefits from assured direction by Richard Marquand, The Legacy, an ingenious script from Basic Instinct screenwriter Joe Esterhaas, and seasoned character actors Robert Loggia and Peter Coyote, providing memorable support.
And there you go. So, sounds like a pretty tense erotic thriller. And yeah, those types of movies were quite popular at the time. I remember, Glenn Close was in another big famous one, of course, Fatal Attraction with Michael Douglas. So, pretty cool. Anyway, looking forward to checking that one out as an adult who would actually appreciate it more than 13-year-old Transformers obsessed me. Next up, we have one that I've actually been wanting to pick up for a while because I love this actor and some of the roles he did and just how powerful and important they were, especially at the peak of the civil rights movement. We have Sidney Poitier, Katharine Hepburn, and Spencer Tracy in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Now, I mean, I've been a huge fan of Sidney Poitier ever since he portrayed Virgil Tibbs in the Heat of the Night, and the two sequels, They Call Me Mr. Tibbs and The Organization. So this is sort of the other big important role that he played, and I've been wanting to see this movie for ages. So when I saw that Indicator had it in their 3 for $20 sale, I couldn't pass it up. I thought, let's check that one out. So let's see what this one's all about.
Stanley Kramer's landmark study of racial prejudice stars the ace comic duo of Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn as perplexed parents. When Joanna, Katherine Houghton, returns home with her new fiancé John Prentice, Sidney Poitier, a distinguished black doctor, her mother accepts her daughter's decision, but her father is shocked by the prospect of the interracial union. With the doctor's parents equally dismayed, both families must meet to explore the limits of their intolerance.
I actually already knew what that one was all about, but I figured you'd want a little more eloquent of a description than, interracial couple has dinner with racist family. But, yeah, anyway, sounds like a really good one, and I've been wanting to see it for a long time. So this next one was an interesting curiosity. I'd never heard of it before, but when I saw who was in it and read a little bit about the controversy surrounding it when it came out, and it was part of the 3 for $20 deal, I thought, yeah, that sounds interesting. I'd like to check that out. We have, from 1967, Age of Consent, starring James Mason and Helen Mirren. Yeah, I didn't even know Helen Mirren was making movies that long ago, but I'm a huge fan of hers. I love her stuff. First thing I ever saw Helen Mirren in was The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover by Peter Greenaway. Have you guys ever seen that? Really good, horribly underrated film that I cannot recommend highly enough. It's great. Also has What's-His-Face, who played Dumbledore, the second Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies. The name escapes me at the moment. But anyway, great movie, and I've been a fan of hers ever since. So this is actually only her third movie, so right at the dawn of her career. She was only 22 when she made it. So let's check out the description for Age of Consent.
Based on Norman Lindsay's controversial autobiographical 1935 novel, Age of Consent is the story of an artist, James Mason, grown tired of producing art for wealthy Americans, who moves to the wilds of Australia's Great Barrier Reef, where he meets Cora, Helen Mirren, a teenage girl who inspires him and becomes his muse, as well as the object of his desire. The penultimate film from the great Michael Powell, director of Black Narcissus, The Red Shoes, and Peeping Tom, Age of Consent explores the obsessive nature of an artist approaching the twilight of his career. Misjudged and mishandled on its initial release, when the distributor removed key scenes and rescored the film, Age of Consent is now regarded as one of Powell's key works.
So yeah, one of the things I've always found interesting is when a studio gets cold feet about a movie, and it sounds like this was definitely one that scared the studio. I mean, to be fair, the subject matter does sound a little, risque, to say the least, and I was a little disturbed hearing that it's based on an autobiographical thing. But, in terms of the story itself, I mean, it basically sounds very similar to Lolita, so if you're familiar with Lolita, it's kind of that sort of thing. But the fact that they cut 7 minutes out of it and then rescored the music, like what, was the music too sexy or something? I'm really curious about that. And then for this Indicator edition, they actually have the fully restored director's cut that was, I guess, reassembled in 2005. And with, I assume, the original score? I don't know. It just said who the composer was. But anyway, it seemed like a curiosity for a number of reasons, just sort of on the controversy level. But also, Helen Mirren. 22-year-old Helen Mirren. I mean, come on. Anyway, looking forward to checking that one out. Next up, this one I know I saw with my parents back in the day. And again, too young to appreciate. I've been wanting to revisit it for a while. But check out this cast. We have Jack Lemmon, Jane Fonda, and Michael Douglas in The China Syndrome. Yeah, give a listen to this.
When a reporter and cameraman are assigned to cover the daily routine of a nuclear power plant, they witness and record an accident which could have wiped out the whole of Southern California. But their bosses refuse to broadcast the footage. Starring Jane Fonda, Jack Lemmon, and Michael Douglas, this daring and controversial thriller was nominated for 4 Academy Awards and proved to be horrifyingly prescient when the real-life 3 Mile Island accident happened at a nuclear generator in Pennsylvania just 12 days after it was released in U.S. cinemas.
Yeah, that was a little bit of trivia I did not know, that 12 days after this was released in the theater, the 3 Mile Island incident occurred. Like, how crazy is that? I'm sure that contributed greatly to its success in theaters, being unintentionally timely, like ridiculously timely. But, so there's a few reasons I wanted to pick this one up. First off, I mean, I'm always interested in stories about nuclear annihilation or near nuclear annihilation in this case. It also just sounds like a really, really good thriller, like with the whole cover-up aspect and such. The cast, like just an amazing cast. But one of the things that I was curious about was how early this was in Michael Douglas's career. Because I know he'd been doing stuff for a while, and I was familiar with him from some of his early work, in particular The Streets of San Francisco, which ran from 1972 to 1976, and I saw quite a few episodes in repeats back in the 90s. So this was only the second movie that he did after The Streets of San Francisco. Much like how Marlon Brando's first few films didn't really make a big impact, it was kind of the same with Michael Douglas. There was, some decent films there, but nothing really like outstanding or breakout. But his big break, I guess, was The Streets of San Francisco, which of course he co-starred in with Carl Malden, and that had a very successful 4 or 5 season run. And during that, he didn't make any movies. Like, he just put all of his focus on the show, which makes sense, because, I mean, back then, television seasons were what, like 26 to 30-something episodes? I mean, that's a huge time commitment. When the hell are you going to have time to make some movies in the middle of all that? But yeah, so after the series wrapped, he, took a year off and then went back to making movies. The movie he did before this, in 1978, was Coma, based on the Robin Cook novel. Another big hit movie. So, yeah, after The Streets of San Francisco, it just seemed like he couldn't stop him. Michael Douglas's star was on the rise, and nothing was going to get in the way of that. Just one banger after another. So, yeah, so this is a good example of one of his early, big, successful movies. And it's one I've been wanting to revisit for quite some time. Next up, we have one from Ridley Scott, but not a science fiction movie. Yeah, of course, as you know, I'm a big fan of Ridley Scott's sci-fi stuff, like Alien and Blade Runner and Legend, which I have not seen Legend in so long. I've had the Blu-ray forever. I really need to sit down and watch that. You know what? I don't think I've ever watched the director's cut with the Jerry Goldsmith score. I've only seen the Tangerine Dream version. So, yeah, I'm going to have to make a point of doing that. Anyway, this is not any of those. This is Someone to Watch Over Me with Tom Berenger and Mimi Rogers. So, dipping into, tense crime thriller territory here. And I mean, as much as we talk about Ridley Scott's science fiction, he's actually had quite a diverse career as a director and done a wide variety of films. And I haven't seen very many of them, so this seemed like an opportunity to kind of explore some other parts of his filmography that I was not already familiar with. I did see Thelma and Louise back in the day, though. That one is so much fun. I really need to pick that one up for the collection at some point. So let's check out Someone to Watch Over Me.
After exploring the science fiction and fantasy worlds of Alien, Blade Runner, and Legend, famed British director Ridley Scott turned to modern-day New York for Someone to Watch Over Me, one of a number of adult-oriented erotic thrillers, including Fatal Attraction, Black Widow, and Jagged Edge, to appear in the late 80s. Plays a blue-collar NYPD detective assigned to protect a wealthy murder witness, Mimi Rogers of The Rapture. Soon, the relationship becomes an affair, threatening Berenger's marriage to Lorraine Bracco, Goodfellas and The Sopranos, and the killer is still on the loose. Stylishly shot by Stephen Poster, Donnie Darko, Someone to Watch Over Me is glossy, high-concept filmmaking from start to finish.
And there you go. And I guess, when was this, 1987? Yeah, so this would have been the year after Tom Berenger made a lot of waves in Platoon. So, yeah, another star that was very much on the rise at the time. Next up, we have Stacy Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis in Roadgames from 1981. Yeah, so Jamie Lee Curtis, I mean, was she ever not a star? I mean, she had, huge success with Halloween, of course. But I remember she was in a lot of, not so much erotic thrillers, but roles where she played a very kind of sexy, sensual, I don't know how you'd say, sexually liberated type character. She seemed to play a lot of those in the early to mid 80s. So this is one that I'd heard about for ages. I don't think I ever saw it, but I do vaguely remember seeing trailers for it when I was a kid. So let's check out what Roadgames is all about.
Stacy Keach, Fat City, and Jamie Lee Curtis, Halloween, star in Richard Franklin's 1981 Australian slasher classic, inspired by Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. Keach plays Quid, an American trucker who, with the help of Curtis's hitchhiker, tracks down a serial killer active on the long, empty roads of southern Australia. This extras-laden edition boasts an all-new 2020 restoration from a 4K scan of the duplicate negative, produced exclusively for this release.
And there you go. So that one sounds like a lot of fun. I don't really have much to say about it other than, it was one that sounded good, so I grabbed it. And I mean, I'm always down for some sexy early 80s Jamie Lee Curtis, and Stacy Keach is always awesome. I've been a big fan of his ever since he did all the Mike Hammers back in the 80s. Next up, a director whose work I am sadly under familiar with, and I really need to remedy that. Brian De Palma, Body Double. Yeah, and I think this is considered an all-time great kind of again, another one of these erotic thrillers from the early to mid 80s, right? But this is a Brian De Palma erotic thriller, so you're in for a treat. Let's check it out.
Well, this description is definitely a case of less is more, but it was certainly enough to sell me on it. You can't believe everything you see. Brian De Palma, the modern master of suspense, invites you to witness a seduction, a mystery, a murder.
Yeah, so not much of a description there. That's literally all that was written on the website. I guess they figured, it's a Brian De Palma erotic thriller. Do you really need us to sell you on this? So, anyway, this could very well be my first experience with his films. So, maybe someday, when I get around to watching it, I'll let you know how that goes. But definitely looking forward to checking out more of his work, because I've heard nothing but good things about his directing. So, next up, this is the last one, actually, I guess 9 of 9. My parents were a big fan of Jean le Carré and his spy novels and the film adaptations of his spy novels, and, well, this is one of them. We have The Deadly Affair. And I will confess, kind of getting back to my nerdy roots, the reason I initially grabbed this was because Maximillian Schell is in it. Why is that significant? Well, Maximillian Schell played Dr. Hans Reinhardt in The Black Hole. Yes, the very dark Disney film from 1979, which I've always loved. I've always had a big soft spot for that. It was one of my favorites as a kid and remains a nostalgic favorite now. Some great practical effects in that, by the way. Anyway, he played the sort of crazy Captain Nemo style captain of the USS Cygnus, which was a lost ship that, is discovered in the... It's very much like Captain Nemo in space, essentially. So he plays the captain of that ship. So I've always been curious about his other work because, that movie came very much kind of at the twilight of his career. He was getting older and stuff. But I haven't really seen much of his earlier work, so I thought, well, that sounds interesting. And, oh, hey, look, James Mason again. Like, the dude's just showing up everywhere. And Harriet Anderson, Harry Andrews, Simone Signoret, I don't know who others are. But produced and directed by Sidney Lumet. That was the other thing that attracted me to this. Another, director, writer that I've heard of, but haven't really experienced much of his work. So, and it's based on a Jean le Carré novel. So, I mean, just a multitude of reasons to check this out. So let's give a listen to the blurb on this one.
The Deadly Affair, based on Jean le Carré's first novel, Call for the Dead, which introduced spy master George Smiley. The Deadly Affair sees an aging British secret agent, played by James Mason, set out to uncover the truth behind a government employee's apparent suicide. Eschewing the glamour of the era's Bond thrillers, Lumet's chilling and intelligent take on the spy drama presents a palpable and darkly sinister picture of Cold War intrigue. The exemplary cast also includes Maximillian Schell, Harriet Anderson, Harry Andrews, Roy Kinnear, and Lynn Redgrave.
And there you go. So sounds like a taut, tight, exciting spy thriller. So when I want to get my espionage on, might pop that one in. Alright, so we put everything up here. Let's give you another quick look there. Sorry to cover you up there, Sydney, but we need room for The Deadly Affair. Yeah, I did kind of arrange it all so you could still see the titles of the movies. Far too much thought went into this layout. Anyway, here's all 9 of them. And, well, here, why don't I flip all of these around real quick. I'll zoom in for you, and you can pause and read the extras on all the backs of all of them. Well, I don't know how we're going to fit this one in because we only have room for 8. Only 8 will fit on the music stand comfortably, so we'll give this its own moment in the spotlight. Alright, here we go. Get ready to pause. There's going to be a lot to read in just a few seconds. In 3, 2, 1... Here, since we've got 9, and I can comfortably fit 3 and give you a much closer view, let's do 3, 3, and 3. So here we got The Wild One, Jagged Edge, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? And if we flip them around, you can see what all the extras are, and also the non-description on the back. You can also see what regions they are. So you may notice that The Wild One and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner are both region free. Jagged Edge, however, is region B locked. And here we have Age of Consent, Someone to Watch Over Me, and The China Syndrome. And there we go. You can see there's quite a pile of extras, especially on Age of Consent, I think just because there was so much controversy and stuff about it, so there's a lot to go into. And I swear this wasn't intentional, but I see the one in the middle is Region B locked again. So we got Age of Consent is region free, Someone to Watch Over Me is Region B locked, and the China Syndrome is region free. And finally we have Road Games, Body Double, and The Deadly Affair. And, oh, looks like we broke the pattern. This time, Road Games is Region B locked, Body Double and The Deadly Affair are both region free. And there you go. So, hope you enjoyed all that. Anyway, as you can see, these indicator sets are absolutely loaded with stuff. And quite affordable. Like, even when they're not on ridiculous sale, they're only about maybe $20 a piece, typically, if that. And that's as an import. So even if you're not in the UK, you can get these pretty cheap most of the time. And most of them are region free. I think there was one or two here that were region B locked. Take a look at the still from, or take a look at the shot from before that shows all the backs, and you can see which ones are region B locked. But most of their standalone releases like this are region free. So if you don't have a region free player or a means of ripping them to your computer or whatever, something to bear in mind. But they're very clear in their listings as to which ones are region free and which ones aren't. So they're pretty reliable in that respect. Anyway, that is it from me to you for now. So kind of an interesting update, I think. Got a good mix of stuff that isn't my usual fare. Always good to get outside your comfort zone a little bit and broaden your horizons, you know? You never know what new favorites might be waiting for you out there. Alrighty, that is it from me to you for now. Hope you enjoyed. So until next time, thanks for watching, and sayonara.